In the prepping community, we have a lot of myths. There's a lot of like fantasy about bugging out and what that would look like. Hey guys, you know, I like the movies like The Road, The Book of Eli. You know, it's cool stuff. I did a whole stream about my favorite prepper movies, my favorite survivalist movies. But the reality of it is, in most cases, you really don't want to be bugging out unless you absolutely had to. And even then, most of the time, you're going to be bugging out to a friend's house or to a hotel or something like that. The fantasy that we're gonna, you know, take our pack and bug out and go live in the woods, you know, most people wouldn't be able to do that, to be perfectly honest. I don't know that I could do it for very long, and I've got a lot of survival skills. I've been basically training since I was a Boy Scout at the age of what, 8 or 9, I don't remember. Learned a lot from my dad, who was a paratrooper, trained with some other people along the way. It's just, it's a fantasy, but let's go out, let's test the bug out gear a little bit here, and then when we get to a place up the road here, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna show you how I stage my pack. Now, my friend Titan Preparedness does a challenge on his channel where it is 10K, or is it 10 miles? I'm not sure. Either one is going to be tough. Uphill a mountain on day 1 and downhill a mountain on day 2 with your bug out bag. Now, that's not what I'm going to be doing today, and I will fully acknowledge that I have not been in shape enough to do something like that. So that's, you know, part of breaking down the fallacy part 1. Is unless you are like training all the time and working with that kind of weight, walking that much in a given day, it's going to be extremely hard. Now, how quickly would you come up to fitness? Well, if your body doesn't break down, you probably would come up to fitness in a couple weeks. I mean, that's kind of what happens when people go off to boot camp, isn't it? But, and by the way, I am not military. Sarge is just a nickname if you're first time to the channel. I picked up that nickname in college, and I've had it for over 20 years as part of my branding. So a couple things. I'm not doing the Titan Preparedness Challenge. I'm going to try to do 5 miles today with my bug out bag. And this is basically, this is actually my EDC bag, but I took everything that's in my bug out bag and I've added it back into here. There's a couple things missing. So full disclosure, my tent and hammock and bedroll are already back at camp. So that dropped a few pounds off. But other than that, this is what I would be carrying. And I'm not going to be doing 10K, 10K one day, 10K 2 days. Try to do about 5 miles today, and I'm going to take some breaks along the way, and when I take my breaks I'll work on some skills. I like being out in the woods, so this is fun for me, and it's not uphill. That's the other thing. Full disclosure, mine is mostly going to be flatland. There might be a little bit of incline, but not much. All right, let's keep going. Okay, now I'm not going to be doing any shelter building today, but what I wanted to do is I saw this and I wanted to stop here. This is actually firmly wedged into this tree. It is not in danger of falling. In fact, I could probably stand on that and walk on that, and it's still in pretty decent shape. It is breaking down, but it's going to be good for a little while longer. If I wanted to set up a really rudimentary shelter for the night, what I would do is take some of these logs that I see lying around here and start to make them basically going that way, right? So, or you could do it on this side, and basically you're going to lay them. Let's see if I can grab one and show you. So you're going to start grabbing logs like that, basically lining them up perpendicular to that log, and then you can crawl in there. I have done that before when I did my survival adventure in the Boy Scouts years ago. Not fun. I don't like having the idea of bugs crawling all over me, but in a survival situation, that is a very, very low calorie, easy shelter that you can make. I'm not going to show you the full thing today because I'll be burning a lot of calories, but in terms of like building one versus taking materials that are already set, you know, in the wilderness for you, this is a perfect spot. I would probably set up camp here, do something like that, and then move on the next day. Break down the camp so there's not evidence that you've been here. All right, so as I've been walking along, I've been looking for wild edibles and medicinal plants. This one is definitely not. This actually is false turkey tail, and they call it that because it actually resembles turkey tail a little bit. This one is definitely not edible. I want to kind of Hear that texture? Take a good look. I don't want you guys to eat this one. Okay, and that one is a Rusula, I believe. That is also not edible. Another one popping up out of the ground over here, also not edible. We'll just keep looking. Now, I am not the best at finding game trails, but I do find little game dens like this for small game. Not sure, this could be armadillo. We do have armadillo down here. I probably wouldn't want to eat an armadillo. In fact, I think there's some diseases you can get from it, but this is some sign that there's small game around here. So if I was bugging out here, I'd probably set some snares around this spot, or maybe on the way from this spot, look for a game trail on the way to the nearest freshwater source. All right, I scored. I was looking and looking and looking. I'm like, man, they're going to kill me if I don't find a wild edible out here. It's going to be really embarrassing. I found not only a wild edible, I found one of my favorite wild edibles. Check this out. I'm going to flip the camera for you. All right, see who can identify this. This is one of my favorites. You've seen videos on this before. If you say poke or elderberry, you are wrong. I'll give you a couple more seconds. All right, let me grab a couple of these little berries off. Whoa, they're slippery little guys. Check that out. This, my friends, is American Beauty Berry. These berries are edible. They have a little bit of a funky taste, kind of like a medicinal taste, but they are edible and loaded with vitamins. And these leaves actually have a lot of survival uses too. They actually can be crushed up and made into a poultice that you can rub on your skin, and it has the natural insect repellent abilities. And there's also a use that there's a illegal use for this that I can't tell you about that has to do with fishing and in a survival situation. If you really need to know, you can look that up, but I'm not going to get my channel in trouble by telling you about that. It is highly illegal to do that in just about everywhere that I'm aware of, but in a survival situation where you absolutely had to have some food, there you go. All right, we are underneath a very giant pine. Check that out. And this, my friends, is fatwood that fell off that. So this actually makes a pretty good fire starter. Just little resources you should be looking at when you're out in the woods, especially if you're lost, things like that. As you're walking along, look for resources like that. All right, another good one here. This is another one of my favorites actually. This is the partridge berry. See it right there? And the leaves and the berries are edible. I've talked about this in some of my other videos. You can find it in the foraging videos, the playlist for foraging videos. But this is a nice find. So already I've found 2 wild edibles and several not so wild edibles, but actually as I'm looking around, I'm seeing more and more.